All right, Regan, before we get into the brand, we're going to start with you. And the story tends to be great, but the question is so simple. How did you accidentally fall into franchising? What's your franchise backstory?
I accidentally landed in franchising when I decided I wanted to make industry change, and fitness sounded really great because I love fitness, and landed at an emerging startup fitness franchise when it had one prototype basically location and was in the middle of building out their second and third.
So when you fall into it, I mean, you obviously take a job change. Do you understand what franchising is at that point, or was your perception much different than the reality?
I love that question. I really didn't even understand what franchising was before I landed. My professional background leading up to that point had been in enterprise level, executive level client services and operations management. So when I went into it, the closest thing I could identify with is that franchisees are clients of franchisors. And there were some good elements of that, just as far as professionalism and etiquette and dedication to excellence. But it definitely took me a few years to truly understand the equation of franchisor, franchisee. And now being in the industry for 10 years or so, I really have a better understanding. But certainly jumping in, I really had no idea what I didn't know.
I mean, what's fascinating to me, and I mean, we could go off topic on this too, but for franchisees, and it's every franchise brand, you land on a franchise sales site that says, buy my franchise. It's like, but none of us understood what it was. So it's complex. Like, that's probably why people freak out as a part of the process. Like, yeah, maybe I want to do this. And then they fill out a form and then they never take the salespeople's calls because they really don't know what franchising is.
Totally agree. And I think that there are wildly different versions of franchise systems out there as well. And that means just in style, right? And sort of mission and brand vision and how various companies support their franchise systems. And then there's also just different types of franchising. There's license agreements versus, full encompassing franchise agreements. And it's not something that, as far Oops, did we lose each other?
You're back. You're back.
Back.
There you are. So out of curiosity, so you take a role at True Fusion, manager of franchise operations. Obviously, I was looking at the resume, and so you get put in there. It's an emerging brand, and just out of curiosity, like the brand started growing. There was, if I remember correctly, there was the Alex Rodriguez connection as well. Like, you're going through this. And so you move up the ranks through operations. Like, did it feel like a roller coaster figuring it out? Are you flying the rocket while also building it? Like, what was it like to be a part of an emerging brand that doesn't have the infrastructure, and operations falls under your purview?
Right. We were definitely building the plane while we were flying it. And I think in some ways you never kind of leave that mode if you're always evolving, right? Which we should be. But certainly an emerging brand like that. And again, True Fusion is such an amazing concept that I still have not really seen much else out there like it. So the excitement around it and everyone wanting to figure out how to replicate this was there. The passion was there. The unique factor first to market was there. But yes, then you start talking about building specifications and staffing structures, and there's a single prototype. So there were some good examples, but the reality is when you're a franchise system, everything needs to be documented. A solution that works for a single location may not work for 2, 3 more locations. So there was a lot of let's document it the way it is, but know that we need to upgrade that, and partnering with franchisees and second location, third location operators so that we could understand how to improve the system from their learnings. And that's a tough place to be probably as a franchisee. You come into a franchise system knowing that it's a new one and they don't have all of the years of history that some of the larger systems do. but it's still, a struggle along the way. However, some of the benefits were just being able to be a part of the creation of so many of those things that, have stayed with the company through the years.
Ultimately, what happens from an operational standpoint should equal success for franchisees, and success for franchisees will then drop more to royalty back to the franchisor. It's a very simple math problem. And so when you're documenting this process, I would imagine, and even establishing your own path as leading operations, you're building a process that the widget eventually becomes irrelevant. It's more so I know how to operate a business that happens to be a franchise. And so you stayed in fitness, but Merry Maids or True Fusion, you basically franchised your model. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it is accurate. And there's a lot of carryover between different industries once you're in franchising. And the companies that I've partnered with, first True Fusion in the emerging world, and then Pure Bar at Exponential, and now Merry Maids under Service Master brands, everyone's trying to get the equation right, which is the business model, the business concept, the tools that you need in order to operate that business should all be, identified, supplied, supported, trained, and educated by the franchisor for the franchisees to be able to operate the business and not have to reinvent the wheel. They shouldn't have to spend months and tons of money making mistakes in various avenues, right? It's getting the learning. For Merry Maids, as an example, the company's been around since 1979. So there's a tremendous amount of learnings that new owners coming in, starting a business in that particular vertical, get to benefit from.
Yeah. We do these summits called Fran Camp, and we had a speaker, and he said something that stuck with me. They're heavy brick and mortar, and he said, I look at their business as if it were mine. And if I have that lens, that means if they were to ever close or they were to ever exit, I want that business. But it was an interesting philosophy, because what happens then is very forward in putting franchisees first. And I would imagine as you're building out your operational playbook, you start to learn that the success of those franchisees and the support that we can give them ends up dictating what the franchisor success is going to be as well.
Absolutely. There's not a franchisor out there that can be legitimately successful unless its franchisees are successful as well. So, there's the providing support and really thinking of the franchisee with every decision. And there's also really taking the opportunity to know your franchisees, giving them a little bit of leeway to bring creativity into the way that they're running their business, provided it doesn't interrupt consistency or create issues. But individuals who go into business, right, whether it's through franchising or through their own development, these are entrepreneurs. These are very smart people, passionate people. And there's a lot that can be learned by interacting with those at the local level, franchisee level. And sometimes there's great ideas and you look at it and you're like, ooh, I understand why you're doing that. That's certainly not something we can scale exactly in that way to support, 20, 300, 400 other locations, but we can do this variance of it. And then you don't have to think about it. And we can take that ownership on in figuring out the technology and all of that. So that's one of my favorite parts, is really everyone benefiting from the collaboration that is part of a franchise family and network.
Out of curiosity, on the career front, at what point are you having vision of being the leader of a company? Is that happening long before you're jumping into franchising? Was that always the path, or do you start changing your own personal career dream based on the experiences that you were having along the way?
Love that. I was just being a little bit retrospective on that over the last couple of weeks. I'm an individual who probably didn't have a lot of confidence early in my career. So I really leaned into, how I could work the hardest and how I could be the best at assisting others. And because of that level of attention to detail, I was able to excel in what I was doing. But it took being around great leaders and seeing behind the curtains and understanding that humans are humans, and leaders don't always have it perfectly, and the ones that are transparent with that and are open to them. And I was like, oh, well, that is the type of leader that I could be. And suddenly, rising through the ladder, so to speak, just on sweat equity, became an opportunity to do something else, which was to actually feel like a leader.
I have a follow-up question on that, but out of curiosity, so become president of Pure Barre, now president again. Do you get a chance to pinch yourself and say that hard work paid off, or is it just like on to the next one? I'm going to continue. Like the work ethic ends up trumping the ability to be reflective.
I do count, the level of gratitude that I have and take a moment every once in a while. But it's not that I really got to a status. It's more about, what is the task at hand, and is it something that I'm really passionate about? It's why I just came over to Merry Maids. I became aware of an opportunity, and I, learned more about the brand. I kind of have a heartfelt little connection to the brand. Merry Maids was who cleaned my home when I was a kid, and it was always brought calm to the storm, a very chaotic, household with 2 working parents and all of that. But really, when I heard about how long the brand has been around, the things that it does really well, and some of the areas of opportunity that the brand has to grow even more, and I connected with that. That is all I thought about. It wasn't, president or whatever. It's just like, I can help. I'm excited about this. Let me dive in.
What I love about how vulnerable your statement is, you said I had to build confidence in my role. I was going to work hard, and I had to build confidence. I think that's majority of franchisees. Now, some of them will fake it till they make it, meaning they wouldn't admit that their confidence level wasn't there. But when you're going into business ownership, especially at the beginning stages of it, not the portfolio builders, it's more so like I have turbulence in my job. I'm going to make a risk. I'm going to invest my life savings into this. Like there is something to be said about this internal struggle that they go through. And obviously the scaffolding, and your scaffolding was the leadership around you, but the same is so true for the franchisee. The scaffolding is the support mechanisms that are around them from the franchisor. And I would imagine they have to go through those same processes, particularly mentally, to give themselves permission to be a leader and to grow a business and to cultivate a culture, because especially in Merry Maids, like you're entering the most personal space of a human being in their home. And so it's like everything you just said, even though it's career focused, I think it's so comparative to whether they admit it or not, what a franchise owner has to go through too.
I definitely agree with that. And in many discovery days, some of the analogies that I give and some of the awareness that I give prospective franchisees is, even though you're exploring being part of a household name type of brand in some cases, and even though there's the toolkit, like the home office team doesn't pop out of a box in your particular market and do everything for you, right? So it's a toolkit, but you still have to swing the hammer. You have to do the work. And an analogy that I would give pretty regularly is like, if you're a person that looks at recipes on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and then you go to Instacart, you order all the ingredients and they get delivered, and then they sit on your counter, or you put them all away and you never actually make the recipe, and you have food rotting in your fridge, like that is, essentially what you could be looking at doing to your investment. But if you're the type of person that, evaluates something, does the work to get the supplies and the resources, and a franchisor makes that so much easier for you to do, and we provide the recipes. If you're the person that will follow the recipes and over time learn it and make it your own, then this is a great fit.
That connects with me so much. I made chicken bread a few weekends ago, and my kid said it's awful. But I'm gonna still keep going back to that recipe and making it. And I think you're onto something. If at Discovery Days we say, here's the ingredients, go bake a cake, prospective franchise owner, and see if they're gonna do it or not. It's a good test to see how that works out. So in fitness, and you said this, I was a fan of fitness. I had an opportunity. I made the jump. And clearly in the fitness business, majority of franchise owners have some sort of affinity for it, and then they're matching business with it. Rare scenario, you can reflect backwards on being a kid and what you felt like when Merry Maids came to the house. But majority of Merry Maids franchisees probably as a child didn't say, I would like to own a cleaning business someday. And so now it's almost like you're shifting into a different type of passion, and it's probably more of the passion of entrepreneurship and culture building, and here's the widget that you can do it through Merry Maids. Are you finding that like it's a different journey to becoming a franchisee, and the passion ends up being about building great businesses as the first entry for the franchisees who have joined Merry Maids?
Yeah, there's actually a few pathways there. One is that, right? One is individuals that know they want to become business owners, and they do some research. The industry that Merry Maids is in is only going to get enhanced. Until we have like full-on robots that are cleaning homes, right? So don't anticipate that anytime soon. There's a lot of family legacy, like generation after generation after generation within Merry Maids, which is so cool. But another piece that I'm passionate about, and our franchise owners and their team members are really passionate about, is you can look at it surface level and go, okay, we're cleaning people's homes. But again, reaction that I had to what that does to people's lives, right? And we're in such a time-starved generation and world because we're just so busy doing other things. So if we can give a family, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours back into their worlds and their lives a month or whatever their frequency is, what are they doing with that time? And it can be the difference between them being happy or fighting, or them going out and relaxing or doing something fun, or cleaning their house. And it really is something that we talk about a lot with franchisees, like how we impact people's lives. And that's very similar to fitness.
Yeah, because someone is on the customer side, specifically on the customer side, I do wellness or fitness to either have an outcome of weight loss or muscle gain or some kind of outcome, or it's a form of the stress relief that gives me the peace in my day. And so there's a lot of similarities between the emotional feel of what you feel like after a house is cleaned and what you feel after going through the fitness side. And I think that's important because for any franchise to thrive, it has to show a clear positioning of what problem are we solving for the customer, and clearly there's a lot of similarities in the problems that you're solving as you've taken on this role. And obviously it's in its infancy. Two-sided question. One, anytime a new leader comes into an organization, especially a legacy brand, franchisees, some of them are probably apprehensive and say, okay, there's someone new. So how do you break in culturally? And then what is your vision for the culture now that you've started to understand the business that you're now leading?
Yes. Well, with Merry Maids, I had the luxury of timing, and I was able to join Merry Maids right when they were gathering for
Give it one more second, see if Regan comes back. This is the risk of being live is sometimes internet. Oh, Regan, are you back? Almost.
Sorry about that.
You're back. There you are. All right. So
there's construction happening, and I don't know if they're like knocking things down, but anyway.
That's good. Let's just hope it's not a competitor brand like outside being like, we're going to mess up the internet. So that's good.
That would be pretty cutthroat.
All right. So you have you said I had the advantage of having the convention or the conference happen at the gathering happen at the time of starting.
So within my first week, essentially, of starting with Merry Maids, I was there in person with almost 300 franchisees. And I have to say that I was prepared for polite welcoming, but snicker, kind of a thing, because, it is difficult to go through leadership changes. And some of these franchisees have been in the system for over 30 years, right? So they've seen a lot of changes and new faces. But everyone was so genuinely warm and welcoming. We're an energy match, me and this brand. They're really looking for a leader that's excited and genuine and authentic. And I think they've been kind of waiting for the shoe to drop. It was the personality that I put on stage, and then, the polite social hour hellos. But now we're kind of getting in a rhythm, and I think they can see that's really just who I am. I wouldn't be part of a brand if I wasn't excited, and I'm not very good at faking being interested in something. So it's really been awesome so far. And really the vision for a culture is, especially after meeting this group of amazing people, is how do we pull that together in a better fashion? So what I learned is that there's a lot of regional calls, that take place between home office and various franchisees in different markets. There's a lot of one-on-one or small groups, but there's nothing really pulling everyone together outside of an e-weekly newsletter. So last month we launched our first, we call it Thrive and Shine. It is our monthly franchise update call where we pull everyone together and we have fun. We share information. We spotlight best practices. We introduce contests. So it's really just leveraging what was already there and pulling it together in a more fun way.
If you look at the best organizations, and it's not just limited to franchise brands, the voice at the top influences the voice in the next level to the employees, to the customer. And so if you think about the best organizations, especially in the home service space, if the leadership says, how can we be the leaders? How can we take the operational backdrop that you've been through and cross-apply this back to the franchisees, and we build up their confidence so that they believe that they can do this, which then translates into the way that they're going to treat their employees. If their employees have the confidence, and then what happens in the home is going to align all the way up and down. And clearly, I mean, I'm in the business of reading the reactions, the emotions of people when I'm talking to them, and you smile. So many don't even have a smile when I talk to them. I'm like, that's a hard thing. And look, in the private equity world that exists today, it's very easy for a PE firm to say, I'm going to focus on hiring or recruiting in someone who focuses strictly on the P&L to make me more money. Where I think they get it wrong is managing a P&L to make more money is not how you make more money. It's how you treat people and lift them up that makes you more money. And so many private equity funds get it wrong in the hiring process that I'm sure to these franchisees, just purely the way you come across as a human means you're going to do your best. You might not know everything, but you're going to do your best to give them their best,
Well, thanks. That's a really nice compliment in many ways, but it's also the reality. I think, and there are a lot of franchise companies out there that focus on, well, this is the rule, and now we're going to focus on compliance. And those are, whenever I've been looking at any opportunities in the franchise space, if I sniff that, as part of the company culture, I really run away because the way that you get compliance to brand standards, and brand standards are set to be like best in class for the consumer, right, is not by chasing people around with a stick and a clipboard. It's understanding why it is they're not doing it, right? Is it because they weren't aware? Because we didn't communicate it well enough or frequently enough, or we need to do it a different way, is it because there's something operationally at the local level that we don't know from where we sit and we need to lean into that and understand it? Is it a financial reason? Is it a total reluctance thing? That's when maybe the compliance piece comes into play, but there's so many steps that you can take and you can learn along the way. And again, if you make it fun and collaborative, people want to do it. And as you mentioned, that energy and that enthusiasm feeds all the way through to our customers' homes. And so it's a really big priority. And it's just the way that I operate. And I hope that my team, will continue to operate that way. And that's what we recruit based on too.
Well, again, like I'm pulling out traits, but the permission you gave yourself to have confidence. Sometimes when a leader gives the team permission to have confidence, if there's any turbulence in a team mentality because of previous leadership or pressures from franchisees, that confidence now can breed empathy and grace. And empathy and grace, there will be some franchisees in every system who just refuse to give an inch. But those that you give a little bit of empathy and grace to really discover what the issue is, the turnaround is so beautiful. And it ends up having tremendous impact on the business when we start with how do we treat human beings, period.
Yep. Well, and I think it's remembering what they sacrificed to be sitting, on that phone call with you or in that meeting with you. In many cases, back to your earlier point, these are life savings, right? Or, they've taken out loans and they've have that tied to their, they've collateralized their homes, in some cases. And we have to remember that. And sometimes when people get really resistant, it's because there's something going on. And it might be something that we can help with if they're going to be open and communicating with us about it. But they're certainly not going to if they think all we're going to do is walk around and do an audit, right?
Well, I mean, it's always fascinating me how pathways in life equal something. And for you, it starts when you're a kid and you can remember back and the calmness that you felt. For me specifically today, I did a podcast earlier today with a franchisee, and we were talking about scale at the end. She just said, "You know what? I'm happy. I'm very happy. Like this was the right decision for me." And it feels like this was going to be the pathway for today, because I can tell the happiness of you. It's so early, but you're cross-applying who you are as a human and letting that be your lead driver. And I'm excited to see where your story goes. And I'm grateful that you shared it with me today. This was awesome.
Thanks. Yeah. Grateful to be here with you and glad I could lock in a theme for you for today.
Right.
With
happiness.
I'm happy.
Enough. Happy drives happy. So Regan, thanks for doing this. Appreciate it. For Regan, I'm Nick. This was another Meet the Franchisor.